Was he the best player in college football in 2015? Well, that was very debatable with Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry. Was he the most important player in college football? I think that's less debatable. Best quarterback at the most important position, Deshaun Watson did it all and got the Clemson Tigers to within a brink of the national championship. We bring in Ryan Kantor from Shaking the Southland to talk about Watson and his backups and the future. So, Ryan, Deshaun Watson, everybody knows about him. In your eyes, what makes this kid just off the charts exceptional?
You know, he's very cool, calm, and collected, doesn't panic. He has a great feel for the pocket. He scrambles, but that doesn't mean he's a running quarterback. He's got a great arm. He's got very good accuracy. He makes good decisions. And then he also has that ability. You even see it with some quarterbacks that don't quite have the speed he has, like a Tom Brady or even a Ben Roethlisberger, and they just know when to step into the pocket. He seems to have that more than some quarterbacks we've seen in the past. What was so amazing last year is he lost some of his best targets. In particular, Mike Williams didn't have that vertical passing threat. Had to kind of struggle a little bit to find new targets, to find his way. He was also recovering from knee surgery, and he got better and better as the year went on. And boy, by the national championship game, I thought it was clear he was the best player in the country.
Yeah, really his only down moment, to a certain extent, the Notre Dame game was not a stellar game for him, but the Tigers still pulled it off and held off the Irish 68%, 4,100 yards, 35 passing touchdowns, ran for 1,100 yards. And the game that sticks out to me, Ryan, is that even though the stats weren't glittering or the final score, it was 13-all against Florida State with about 8 minutes left, and he strung together 2 drives when that Florida State defense was just really brutal the entire game. In the clutch, he knew when to run it. He knew when to pass it. He made all the right reads, all the right plays. As you just pointed out, the guy's a special player, no question. So hopefully nothing happens to Deshaun Watson. Hopefully we've got some 45-0 games, and we'll get to see a couple of quarterbacks in Kelly Bryant and Nick Schuessler, who are right now in a battle for that 2 spot.
Yeah, so I think Watson has an opportunity to be even better than last year. And in the situations where, God forbid, he's injured and then we need a backup immediately, or hopefully we're up by 45 and we need a backup just because there's no sense in continuing to play Watson. I think in those situations, you're right. You see Kelly Bryant, you see Nick Schuessler. It seemed that last year Schuessler wasn't very good, and the year prior he wasn't good enough to take playing time away from an injured Cole Stout. So it was kind of assumed that Kelly Bryant was a better player and he would be the backup. But in the spring game, I was actually pretty impressed with Nick Schuessler. I thought he looked as good as he's ever looked. He looked improved. He was passing the ball very well. And Kelly Bryant seemed to really be a little one-dimensional. You know, he could make the play if he rolls out, has one simple read, has a good arm, he can make the pass. But going back in the pocket, reading progressions, looking at linebackers, I don't know if he's quite there yet. So I think if Watson were to miss a couple games, you might even need to see a combination of Schuessler and Bryant. Their skill sets are just so different. But based on last year, I would guess that Bryant's the first guy off the bench.
Yeah, it could turn out to be one of those situations where one kid has a better grasp of the offense. In Schuessler, possibly, I'm not saying that for sure, but Bryant definitely has the bigger upside, a top 10 dual-threat quarterback coming out of high school. Big kid, 6'3", 215, who got into 8 games last year. Then you get a whole different category, Ryan, when you talk about down the road. Now, Deshaun Watson, Clemson fans don't want to think about him playing somewhere else, but that's going to happen most likely after this season. Then you've got a number of players who are highly touted coming into the mix possibly in 2017 and beyond.
Yeah, and I'm a lot more optimistic about the future quarterback beyond this year than potential replacements for Watson, either when he's resting or if a replacement's actually needed. But looking forward a little bit further, beyond the season, you have Tucker Israel, who came in the same year as Kelly Bryant. He had an injury, so he redshirted, so he's now a year behind him. So this will be, I guess, his redshirt freshman year. And then you also have Zerrick Cooper coming in, who's very highly recruited, I believe, out of the state of Georgia. And he'll redshirt this year, he'll redshirt this year. And then beyond that, you have Hunter Johnson, you have Chase Bryce. Those are big-time recruits. Hunter Johnson's a 5-star recruit out of Indiana, and Tennessee had originally recruited him, and the Tigers flipped him just recently. So they have 2 big-time recruits coming in the next wave. So between Tucker Israel, Zerrick Cooper, who I think is probably the heir apparent to Watson, I would think he'll have a good crack at it. And then the 2 big commits in Johnson and Bryce. I think the future after this year, after Watson, I'm not saying any of them will be nearly as good as Watson, but Tigers, out of all that group, should find at least one very good quarterback.
And as you well know, Ryan, when you recruit at Clemson's level, the big key is that you bring in players in waves. And then if a number of guys who are even 4-star and 5-star talents don't turn out, most likely the probability is that somebody's going to turn out. And at quarterback, you just basically need that one guy. And if you've got 4 potential studs for down the line, you just need the one guy to pan out. And as you mentioned, the odds would be that it would be Zerrick Cooper at this point.
So quarterback's kind of a strange position because sometimes you play 2, but in general you play one guy. So you want to make sure you have one really good guy. So you got to recruit about one guy per year on average. Right now we kind of have a bit of a backlog as Schuessler and Watson are both about to leave. But you kind of expect a transfer. I'm not going to guess and speculate which guy it is, but if a guy transfers out, it's kind of acceptable in this situation, and you see that in different programs, and it's just kind of a funky position. So you just want to make sure you have depth and you're confident, and 1 or 2 of these guys will pan out. If the 3rd guy transfers, you're okay, and you just wish them well.
We are breaking down positions all across the country, Ryan, but I don't think anyone's as firmly entrenched as Deshaun Watson are talking about Wayne Goldman at the running back position. So things are good with Dabo Swinney in charge at Clemson. Ryan, thanks so much for the time.
Absolutely. Thank you.